at this passage in Hebrews chapter 9 that was read earlier, we see them contrasting the earthly temple, the earthly tabernacle, and I would even be willing to extend that up forward to the earthly church, and says to us, you know this is just temporary. You know the real thing is coming. Eventually, 65 will have all kinds of lanes and going in each direction. The traffic will go down because all them lanes for people to drive. We know it's temporary, right? The headache that we have, but I want you to look at church that way too. Look at what we're going through as God's people also. Hebrews 9 was written as people who were familiar with the temple, familiar with the tabernacle, familiar with the laws and the ministry that went on in that location. These were faithful people, worshiping people. These were obedient believers, grew up in the temple, spent their lives supporting it. People who were still moving, but maybe just moving a little bit slower than they had expected things to be going at this point in their life. The writer describes the tabernacle and the ministry going on there in great detail. He talks about the holy place. He talks about the Holy of Holies. He talks about the furnishings. He talks about the sacrifices, the prayers, the baptisms. He talks about everything going on in there, and then says to them, you do realize this is just temporary, right? Not because God's presence wasn't real in their lives, not because their worship was less than. He's definitely not saying that. He's saying the system worked, but really there was something else better down the road. And then there's a little shift that takes place in our passage in Hebrews. He tells them, you realize that even though your worship was perfect in that place of temporary, that actually your access to God, he says that you as the people could only go so far, and then the priest had to take it. Then even further still, there was a high priest who took your access even further and closer to God. He says only certain people could do certain things, only at certain times of the year and in certain spaces you had access, but really you didn't have full access because this was indeed temporary. And Hebrews says that's something that's critical for us to realize, even in our worship nowadays, that the Holy Spirit was there with them. The Spirit of God fell upon them mightily in those days. So it's not failure, my brothers and sisters. It's definitely not abandonment that the writer of Hebrews is saying. He's saying that in this moment we are talking about the construction that's going on around us right now that's designed to bring us to and through this moment on to what is better down the road.